Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I have several cool things to show you this time, so let's jump in. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to show you is a new trap that I made. So this essentially is a little cylinder of gas that you have rigged up to shoot fire. So any zombies that walk through this will get set on fire and take damage over time. Currently the way I have it set up, if they get set on fire, they just remain on fire until they die. I might put a time limit on it. I'm not really sure. Just doing some play testing and stuff to see, what works best. Something else that I've added is all of my traps now have health. So for the fire trap here, essentially it is taking damage every 5 seconds, and that is to simulate the fact that eventually this canister of gas is going to run out of gas. And so essentially when you build this, it starts decaying immediately. And I don't know the precise time that it lasts, but in some play tests, it seems to last about the same amount of time as a round does. So it seems pretty good where it's at, but that'll take some testing and toying around with. So eventually this thing will stop spewing fire. Alright, so it's out of gas. It's not doing any damage anymore. Eventually here in a few seconds, it's going to go away completely. There we go. So the idea is, you're going to be building these traps, and, they'll be damaged or decaying at different rates. So, they're not there forever. So you will have to kind of keep track of how your traps are doing, if you need to build more, that sort of stuff. So that is, I have like a first stab at that, essentially. The fire canister lasts that long, and then once it's done, it goes away, so that way the level isn't just getting full of dead, broken traps. Like eventually they just completely disappear, just like the zombie corpses. Alright, so something else that I have worked on is I did a bit of foley work. So I whipped out some microphones here and found some junk laying around my house to record some sound effects for different things. Mostly for the traps and some of the items that you can pick up, which I will show off soon. First thing here for my little ivy stand trap. I'll let you listen to it. Little metal rattly thing. Essentially, I have a actually you can kind of see it back here. This is hard. Right about there, I've got a little metal stand that it came with some sport equipment or something. Basically, I just moved that around in a bunch of different ways until I got a handful of sounds that I liked. So every time I put one of these traps down, it will choose one of those sounds at random. And I think it sounds pretty good. It's kind of subtle. Alright, and then for the wire traps, I did a different sound. So the thought behind this one is it's kind of like, you're pulling the the wires out of the ceiling and kind of having them dangle in a certain area. So the sound that I recorded was I put a cardboard box on the ground, and then I took one of my guitar cables and I kind of dragged it across the box and then onto the floor to kind of simulate the sound of you like reaching up in the ceiling tiles and kind of grabbing a handful of cables until they kind of drape from the ceiling. So there's a handful of these sounds. We'll test them out. So one thing about these traps, the wire traps, I currently don't have a sound effect for like just ambient sounds coming out of that. I do want to add like a little bit of spark and crackle eventually. Right now the only sound effect I have is when they actually get shocked, but I'd like to have a little bit of sound there. So for the health of these two traps, right now the little ivy stand thing here is whenever a zombie is kind of walking on it and taking damage, it is also taking damage. But when there's nothing touching it, then it stops taking damage. So this is meant to be one of the more durable traps. Like it'll take a lot longer for that to break than some of these other things. Right now for the wire trap, I'm not sure what I want to do for this one yet in terms of like how long it should last, but right now I have it so that every time it shocks one of the zombies, it loses like 10 health or something, so it can shock like 10 different zombies before it eventually breaks. I'm not sure if that makes sense or not. Technically, like it wouldn't really be taking much damage. I guess you could argue that maybe the zombies are like getting tangled in it and kind of pulling the wires off or something, but still messing around with that. And then for the fire canister trap, for the sound of this one, I actually took a mostly full can of like WD-40 and I just kind of like rustle it around and dropped it on the ground from like an inch high or something like that, until I got a sound that I thought sounded pretty good. And then I actually manipulated it a little bit. I lowered the pitch of it so it sounds like it's belongs to a larger canister like this instead of like a little handheld canister. So you can hear that when I put it down. I think it sounds pretty good. And then the sound of the fire here is actually some Foley I did too. I have a little like a blowtorch lighter kind of thing for the grill and everything. So I just recorded the sound of that for a few seconds and I just loop it. I think it sounds pretty good. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and run around here so we can see how things work. So you'll notice I have some different music in here. I found some free music on the Fab Store, and this one came with several different variations on themes. So this is like one of the action kind of sounds, but then there's also just kind of like ambient noises. So when a round is happening, we have this more action-oriented music, and then once the round ends, all the zombies are dead, it'll go back to like a more kind of ambient sort of music, so it's not, it kind of indicates when things aren't as dangerous. So something else that I've done, when your noise gets above the 85% threshold, the little noise meter at the bottom will start to flash. Something's a little glitchy with the sound of that electronic trap. Ah, my fire thing is already dead. Good thing I have infinite build capability right now. Alright, so you can see he gets caught on fire. That includes a fire, like a flame effect, like on his torso, but also a like kind of burning layer over his whole body. Yep. I wasn't paying attention and my homeboys are in danger. My noise got a little high there, so that it started flashing. So right now I don't have a fail condition, like when the zombies get here nothing happens, other than it prints a little message on my screen to let me know that the zombies have gotten to their goal. It says danger. Alright, so zombies are dead. Music has calmed down. So something else that I've added since the last time is between rounds, random items will spawn at different locations around. So the idea is that, you know, once this round ends, eventually I'll set some sort of timer before the next round. So you have that amount of time to roam around, loot things, build more traps. So here's an example of like a blood bag that spawns. So essentially there is an item spawner on that desk, and at the end of the round the game mode blueprint tells it to spawn an item, and it picks from whatever potential items I give it, and it spawns one of those. And so I have things like the blood bag, which is something you'll need to take to the doctor, and ammo. And I also have the ability to pick up things like this IV stand, which will be a crafting material for the trap. So I also used the same sound effect for picking up these things. So we can roam around. So you'll see the item there, I have like a little glow on it to help you find them. For some reason, that little overlay glow works on the ammo, but it's not displaying on the items that came with the hospital asset pack. So like the IV stands, the blood bags, and that sort of stuff. I'm not sure exactly why. Something about how the materials of those items works. But we'll pick up some ammo here. So I have, these things spawning, and I have the ability to pick them up. But currently, nothing requires it. I don't have it set up so that the ammo actually changes when you pick things up, and I don't have the crafting requirements for the traps just yet. But essentially I've been just trying to make sure that the item spawning works like it's supposed to. Right now, everything, I have the item spawners kind of randomly located around the hospital. And right now, everything spawns an item between every round. But I plan to make it so that it has a random chance to spawn an item. So essentially, you can't just memorize an item will always be at this spot. Sometimes there will be an item there, sometimes there won't. So that is something that I will eventually add. Something else I haven't done yet, so you see these canisters around here. Just like the IV stands that you have to pick up to make those traps. I want to make it so you have to find these things and pick them up to make the fire trap. Right now, the fire trap is pretty powerful, so I'm thinking of limiting how many of those you can build. I might make it 1 or 2, or maybe I'll adjust how long they last or something like that to kind of balance it out. But yeah, let's go ahead and run another round here. Something else, I don't think this was in the last video. Over in the top right of the screen, you will see the number, and that is indicating how many zombies are currently alive. So it'll count up as they're spawning, and then as I kill them, it will count down, and then once it reaches 0, that's how I determine when the round is over. Currently there is a little bit of bugginess going on with that, because sometimes the round will end and it'll say there's 0 zombies, but there'll still be 1 or 2 lingering around. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. Something that can happen. Oh, I just noticed that even though he was dead, the trap was still interacting with him, and so I made it so it makes that sound, makes that rattling sound, and squirts out blood as the zombies are kind of interacting with that trap. So something that I've noticed is even when the zombies are dead, they're still interacting with things. So I need to do something about that. It's getting hairy over here. My noise is at the brink, and I think I may have accidentally attracted some more zombies just now. So if my sound gets over the 100% mark, it will trigger another spawn from all the spawners. So I think currently there's 4 spawners, so every time I go over, I'm getting like 4 new zombies added to the round. It's like the corpse of that guy is blocking the others. I might need to turn off the collision when they die so it doesn't do that. Oh god, I'm out of ammo. Now I'm way over the sound limit. Alright, so something I did, you'll notice like the sound warning is still going off. Right now I have it so that if you go over 100% on the sound, it triggers another spawn cycle. But it will only do that once every 20 seconds. So in that scenario where I was just in, where things were getting crazy and I had to just unload on a whole bunch of zombies, I went like way over the sound limit. It used to be that even when I was over 100%, every time I shot the gun, the noise would keep going higher and higher and higher. And so that way, when I finally stopped making noise, it would take the actual noise meter forever to actually drop back down to within range, because there was no limit to it. So I have it set up now where once you go over 120% of your noise meter, it will stop adding new amounts of noise. So that way, once you finally stop making noise, it doesn't take quite as long for your noise meter to get back into a normal range. And yeah, like you can only trigger a new spawn cycle every 20 seconds, so that way, you know, in that scenario where I was doing like a last-ditch effort to protect those guys, I wouldn't wanted to have spawned like 60 more zombies. So that is another aspect that will probably take some, you know, play testing to see what works well. Maybe trying out some different variations or whatever. Yeah, I think that's most of the new stuff. So you'll see now that the round's over, it's spawned some new items for me to pick up. So I can run around and pick things up again. So the next thing I need to do is implement the item pickups with the crafting and the ammo management, so that I can start messing with, like, you know, how many items do you need to be able to build certain traps, and kind of balancing that with how long the traps last before they break and all that sort of stuff. Something with the fact that the traps break, essentially I want to encourage now, you know, I kind of set up some traps over there. I kind of want to encourage, you know, the expanding out of traps from that initial area to kind of, you know, catch zombies when they're further away, so that, you know, when you're starting to get swarmed, they either have taken enough damage that they're not so hard to kill, or some of them die off before they get too close. Something I kind of just thought about is the fact that, okay, if I want to build, you know, a gas trap over here, it starts shooting as soon as I drop it, and so it starts decaying as soon as I drop it. And now you know, depending on how long it takes this round to start, this thing could be half dead before it actually starts. So I think I might need to do it so it's like it gets triggered by the first zombie that walks past it, and then it starts to decay. That way you know, you can set it somewhere far away and be confident that you'll get, you know, a good amount of use out of it before it breaks. Yeah, I think that is most of the stuff I wanted to show you. So hopefully you thought that was cool. Not going to do it right now, but in the future I might add on to the back end of some of these videos, like a closer look at like the behind the scenes stuff, like the blueprints and things and the logic that I'm using for this sort of stuff. If that's something you would be interested in, and not just seeing the final result of what I've been doing, leave me a comment and let me know, and I'll make a point to start adding some more of that stuff. So thanks again for hanging out. Hope you liked it. See you next time.